In the quaint, cobblestone streets of a provincial French town, the air was thick with the scent of freshly baked bread and the distant echoes of laughter. Yet, amidst this picturesque scene, there lurked a man haunted by the shadows of his past, Jean Valjean. Once a promising young man with dreams of a bright future, Valjean's life had taken a dark turn. Convicted for stealing a loaf of bread to feed his starving sister's family, he had spent years toiling away in the harsh confines of the prison system. But even after his release, the chains of his past continued to bind him. As Valjean wandered the streets, his shoulders hunched under the weight of his burden, he found himself met with disdainful glares and whispered accusations. The brand of an ex-convict seemed to sear his very soul, marking him as an outcast in the eyes of society. Desperate for a chance at redemption, Valjean sought employment wherever he could. Yet, each door slammed shut in his face, the mere mention of his criminal past enough to send potential employers scurrying away in fear. His stomach gnawing with hunger and his spirit crushed by rejection, Valjean found himself on the brink of despair. It seemed as though there was no escape from the vicious cycle of poverty and prejudice that threatened to consume him whole. But amidst the darkness, a glimmer of hope emerged, the faint glow of a candle in the window of a modest church. Drawn by an unseen force, Valjean stumbled towards the light, his heart heavy with a mixture of trepidation and longing. Pushing open the heavy wooden doors, Valjean entered the sacred space, his eye scanning the dimly lit interior in search of solace. And there, kneeling before the altar, he found himself face to face with the embodiment of mercy itself, the Bishop of Digne. With eyes as kind as they were wise, the bishop welcomed Valjean with open arms, offering him shelter from the storm that raged outside. In that moment, all the walls that Valjean had built around his heart came crashing down, leaving him vulnerable and exposed. As the bishop listened to Valjean's tale of woe, his heart swelled with compassion, seeing not the hardened criminal that society had labeled him as, but a broken soul in need of redemption. And so, in an act of unparalleled generosity, the bishop bestowed upon Valjean a gift beyond measure, the gift of forgiveness. With a simple gesture, he offered Valjean a second chance at life, urging him to leave behind his past and embrace the path of righteousness. Overwhelmed by the magnitude of the bishop's kindness, Valjean vowed to repay his debt in any way he could, dedicating his life to helping those in need and striving to become the man he had once dreamed of being. And so began the next chapter in Jean Valjean's journey, a journey filled with trials and tribulations, but also with moments of grace and redemption. For in the darkest corners of despair, there shines a light that can never be extinguished, the light of hope. Chapter 2: The Bishop's Kindness. In the heart of the idyllic French countryside, nestled amidst rolling hills and verdant fields, stood the ancient walls of the bishop's grand estate. Here, within the hallowed halls of his humble abode, resided a man whose very presence seemed to radiate with an otherworldly aura, the Bishop of Digne. With a countenance weathered by years of wisdom and compassion, the bishop bore witness to the myriad joys and sorrows that ebbed and flowed through the tapestry of life. Yet, it was not the trappings of wealth or power that defined him, but rather the depth of his empathy and the breadth of his generosity. On a fateful evening, as the twilight sky painted the horizon in hues of crimson and gold, a weary traveler arrived at the bishop's doorstep, Jean Valjean. Clad in tattered rags and burdened by the weight of his past, Valjean stood before the imposing gates of the estate, his heart heavy with trepidation. But instead of turning him away, the bishop welcomed Valjean with open arms, his eyes shining with a warmth that thawed the frost of suspicion that had long encased Valjean's soul. With a gentle smile, he invited Valjean into his home, offering him respite from the trials that had plagued him for so long. Seated at the lavish dining table, surrounded by flickering candlelight and the aroma of freshly baked bread, Valjean found himself entranced by the bishop's presence. Here was a man who saw beyond the scars of his past, embracing him not as a sinner, but as a lost soul in need of redemption. As the evening wore on, the bishop regaled Valjean with tales of compassion and forgiveness, his words resonating with a truth that transcended the boundaries of time and space. And with each story, Valjean felt the walls that had long confined his heart begin to crumble, replaced by a newfound sense of hope and purpose. But it was not until the hour grew late and the shadows danced upon the walls that the true extent of the bishop's kindness was revealed. Rising from his seat, the bishop approached Valjean with a small velvet pouch in hand, its contents glinting in the soft glow of the moonlight. With a solemn expression, the bishop pressed the pouch into Valjean's hands, his voice a gentle whisper in the stillness of the night. "Take this, my son," he said, "and may it serve as a reminder of the mercy that has been bestowed upon you. Go forth with courage and compassion, and may you find solace in the arms of forgiveness." Tears welled in Valjean's eyes as he gazed upon the pouch, its weight a tangible symbol of the burdens he had carried for so long. For in that moment, he realized that he was not alone, that even in the darkest of times, there existed a beacon of light that could guide him toward salvation. And so, with a heart full of gratitude and a spirit renewed by the bishop's kindness, Valjean set forth into the world once more, his soul alight with the promise of a brighter tomorrow. For though the road ahead may be fraught with challenges, he knew that he would never walk it alone, buoyed by the memory of the bishop's unwavering love and compassion. Chapter 3: A New Identity. As the first rays of dawn cast their golden light upon the sleepy town of Digne, Jean Valjean emerged from the bishop's estate, his heart heavy with gratitude and resolve. With each step he took, he felt the weight of his past begin to lift, replaced by a newfound sense of purpose and determination. Yet, as he ventured forth into the world once more, Valjean knew that he could not simply erase the scars of his past with the flick of a wrist. The brand of ex-convict still hung heavy around his neck, a constant reminder of the sins he had committed and the lives he had shattered. And so, with a heavy heart and a weary soul, Valjean made a fateful decision to leave behind the name he had been given at birth and adopt a new identity, one unburdened by the chains of his past. Under the cloak of darkness, Valjean ventured into the heart of the city, his footsteps echoing against the cobblestone streets as he sought out the means to forge a new path for himself. And there, amidst the bustling crowds and the cacophony of voices, he found what he was searching for: a dusty, forgotten alleyway, hidden from prying eyes. With trembling hands, Valjean reached into the depths of his soul and unearthed the remnants of his former self, shedding the layers of guilt and shame that had bound him for so long. And in their place, he crafted a new identity, that of Monsieur Madeleine, a humble factory owner with a heart as pure as gold. Armed with his newfound persona, Valjean set about building a life for himself, laboring tirelessly day and night to earn an honest living and repay the debt he owed to the bishop who had shown him such boundless kindness. Yet, even as he toiled away in the shadows, Valjean could not shake the feeling that his past would one day come back to haunt him, lurking just beyond the reach of his newfound happiness. And indeed, it was not long before his fears were realized, as whispers of his true identity began to spread like wildfire through the streets of Digne. For though Valjean had sought to leave behind the man he once was, the ghosts of his past refused to be silenced, clawing their way back into his life with a vengeance. But amidst the chaos and uncertainty, Valjean remained steadfast in his resolve, drawing strength from the memories of the bishop's unwavering faith in him. For he knew that no matter what trials lay ahead, he would face them with courage and conviction, guided by the light of redemption that had illuminated his darkest hour. And so, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the stars painted the sky with their celestial glow, Jean Valjean stood tall and proud, ready to face whatever challenges the future may hold. For though he may have been born a sinner, he was determined to live as a saint, forging a legacy of love and compassion that would endure for generations to come. Chapter 4: Inspector Javot's Pursuit. In the labyrinthine streets of Digne, where shadows danced upon weathered walls and secrets whispered through the alleys like the ghostly echoes of the past, there moved a figure cloaked in darkness, Inspector Javot. With eyes as sharp as flint and a heart as cold as ice, Javot prowled the streets with the tenacity of a bloodhound on the scent of its prey. For him, there existed only two truths in this world: the law and those who dared to defy it. And at the forefront of his relentless pursuit stood a man whose name struck fear into the hearts of all who heard it: Jean Valjean. With each passing day, Valjean's legend grew, his acts of charity and kindness transforming him into a symbol of hope for the downtrodden and oppressed. But to Javot, Valjean was nothing more than a common criminal, a fugitive from justice whose very existence threatened to unravel the fabric of society. And so, with unwavering determination, Javot swore to hunt him down and bring him to justice, no matter the cost. From the smoky taverns of the city to the sun-drenched fields of the countryside, Javot pursued Valjean with the fervor of a zealot, his every waking moment consumed by thoughts of capturing his elusive quarry. Yet, for all his efforts, Valjean remained one step ahead, slipping through his fingers like grains of sand in the desert. Driven by a sense of duty that bordered on obsession, Javot left no stone unturned in his quest to apprehend Valjean, resorting to ever more desperate measures in his pursuit of justice. Yet, with each passing day, his frustration grew, his failure to capture Valjean serving as a bitter reminder of his own inadequacy. But even as Javot's resolve wavered and his faith in the law began to falter, he remained steadfast in his belief that justice would ultimately prevail. For in his eyes, there could be no greater sin than to forsake the pursuit of righteousness in the face of adversity. And so, as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Javot continued his relentless pursuit, driven by a sense of duty that transcended the boundaries of reason. For though the road ahead may be long and fraught with peril, he knew that he could not rest until Valjean was brought to justice, his crimes laid bare for all the world to see. And so, in the shadowy depths of the night, Inspector Javot continued his solitary vigil, a lone sentinel standing guard against the encroaching darkness. For though the path may be arduous and the journey fraught with peril, he knew that he would not falter, not until the scales of justice had been restored and the balance of the world set right once more. Chapter 5: Fantine's Sacrifice. In the bustling streets of Montreuil-sur-Mer, where the air hummed with the melody of bustling markets and the laughter of children echoed through the cobblestone alleys, there lived a young woman whose life was a tapestry woven from threads of hardship and sacrifice, Fantine. Once a vision of beauty and grace, Fantine's path had been marred by misfortune and betrayal, leaving her to navigate the treacherous waters of poverty and despair alone. Yet, despite the countless trials that had befallen her, Fantine bore her burdens with a grace and dignity that belied her tender years. With each passing day, Fantine toiled away in the dimly lit confines of the local factory, her fingers flying deftly across the loom as she wove the fabric of her dreams with threads of hope and determination. Yet, even as she worked tirelessly to provide for her beloved daughter, Cosette, the spectre of destitution loomed large on the horizon, threatening to engulf her in its icy embrace. And so, with a heavy heart and a trembling hand, Fantine made the ultimate sacrifice. She entrusted Cosette into the care of the unscrupulous innkeepers, the Thénardiers, in the hope that they would provide her with the love and care that she could not provide herself. But alas, the Thénardiers were not the benevolent guardians they appeared to be, their hearts blackened by greed and avarice. Instead of showering Cosette with love and affection, they subjected her to a life of servitude and cruelty, treating her as little more than a pawn in their twisted game of deception. And as Fantine toiled away in the factory, her heart heavy with longing for her beloved daughter, she was unaware of the horrors that awaited Cosette in her absence. For though she had sacrificed everything in the name of love, she could not shield her daughter from the darkness that lurked in the shadows. But even as despair threatened to consume her, Fantine remained resolute in her determination to provide for Cosette, her love for her daughter serving as a beacon of hope in the darkest of times. And so, with each passing day, she worked tirelessly, her hands blistered and her spirit broken, yet her resolve unshaken. Yet, even as Fantine's health began to deteriorate and her strength waned, she refused to abandon her quest to reunite with Cosette, her love for her daughter serving as a guiding light in the midst of the storm. And so, with her final breath, Fantine whispered a prayer to the heavens, her heart heavy with the weight of her sacrifice, yet filled with the hope that one day, she would be reunited with her beloved daughter once more. Chapter 6: Valjean's Redemption. As the wheels of time turned and the seasons changed, Jean Valjean found himself inexorably drawn into the intricate web of fate, his path intersecting with those whose lives would forever be changed by his presence. For in the crucible of adversity, he discovered the true measure of his own humanity and the boundless capacity for redemption that lay within his heart. Haunted by the spectre of his past and the sins that had branded him a pariah in the eyes of society, Valjean sought solace in acts of selfless charity and compassion. With each passing day, he ventured forth into the world, his soul ablaze with a fervent desire to right the wrongs of his past and forge a new legacy for himself. And it was amidst the squalor and misery of Montreal-sur-Mer that Valjean's true journey towards redemption began, his path crossing with that of a young woman whose life hung in the balance, Fantine. Bearing the weight of her own struggles and sacrifices, Fantine had become a beacon of hope in a world shrouded in darkness, her unwavering love for her daughter serving as a guiding light in the midst of the storm. And though her health faltered and her spirit waned, she remained resolute in her determination to provide for Cosette, even as the shadows of despair threatened to consume her. But it was Valjean's fateful encounter with Fantine that would serve as the catalyst for his own journey towards redemption, his heart stirred by the depths of her suffering and the magnitude of her sacrifice. And so, with a solemn vow to honor Fantine's memory and ensure her daughter's happiness, Valjean embarked on a quest to rescue Cosette from the clutches of the cruel innkeepers, the Thénardiers. With each step he took, Valjean faced trials and tribulations that tested the limits of his resolve, from navigating the treacherous depths of the Parisian underworld to confronting the demons of his own past. Yet, through it all, he remained steadfast in his commitment to protecting Cosette and securing her future, his love for her serving as a beacon of hope in the darkest of times. And it was amidst the chaos and turmoil of revolution-torn Paris that Valjean's redemption reached its zenith, his selfless acts of courage and compassion paving the way for a brighter tomorrow. For in the crucible of adversity, he discovered the true meaning of redemption, not as a fleeting moment of absolution, but as a lifelong journey towards self-discovery and enlightenment. And so, as the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded into the ether, Jean Valjean emerged from the crucible of adversity reborn, his soul cleansed of the stains of his past and his spirit renewed by the promise of a brighter tomorrow. For though his journey towards redemption had been fraught with hardship and sacrifice, he emerged from the crucible of adversity stronger and more resilient than ever before, his legacy destined to endure for generations to come. Chapter 7: Cosette's Liberation. In the shadowy depths of the inn of the Gorbeau tenement, nestled amidst the labyrinthine streets of Paris, a young girl languished in the cruel grip of servitude. Her name was Cosette, and her life was a tapestry woven from threads of suffering and despair, her days consumed by toil and her nights haunted by dreams of freedom. Beneath the watchful gaze of the cruel innkeepers, the Thénardiers, Cosette was condemned to a life of drudgery and misery, her spirit broken and her hopes dashed against the rocks of adversity. Yet, even in the darkest depths of despair, a flicker of hope burned within her heart, a tiny ember of light that refused to be extinguished. But it was amidst the shadows of the Gorbeau tenement that Cosette's fate would take a dramatic turn, her life forever altered by the arrival of a mysterious stranger whose presence would herald the dawn of a new era. His name was Jean Valjean, a man whose heart overflowed with compassion and whose soul burned with a fierce determination to right the wrongs of the world. And as he gazed upon Cosette, her eyes alight with a fire that had long been extinguished in his own heart, he knew that he could not stand idly by and watch as her innocence was snuffed out by the cruel hand of fate. With a solemn vow to protect Cosette at any cost, Valjean embarked on a daring rescue mission, his every move shrouded in secrecy as he plotted to liberate her from the clutches of the Thénardiers. And though the road ahead was fraught with peril and uncertainty, Valjean remained steadfast in his resolve, his love for Cosette serving as a guiding light in the darkness. And so, on a moonlit night, as the shadows danced upon the walls of the inn and the echoes of distant footsteps reverberated through the halls, Valjean emerged from the shadows, his arms outstretched to embrace Cosette and whisk her away to safety. But even as they fled into the night, pursued by the Thénardiers and their ruthless henchmen, Valjean remained undeterred, his every action fueled by a fierce determination to protect Cosette and ensure her happiness at any cost. And it was amidst the chaos and turmoil of their flight that Cosette's liberation reached its zenith, her heart soaring with the knowledge that she was no longer bound by the chains of her past, but free to forge her own destiny in the crucible of adversity. For though the road ahead may be long and fraught with peril, Cosette knew that she would never walk it alone, her heart forever intertwined with that of the man who had risked everything to set her free. And as they journeyed forth into the unknown, hand in hand and heart in heart, they knew that their bond would endure for eternity, a testament to the power of love and the triumph of the human spirit. Chapter 8: The Student Uprising. In the heart of Paris, a city teeming with life and pulsating with the rhythm of revolution, a storm was brewing. The winds of change swept through the cobbled streets, carrying with them the whispers of dissent and the echoes of rebellion. And at the forefront of this maelstrom of discontent stood a group of idealistic students, their hearts ablaze with the fire of righteous indignation and their minds aflame with visions of a brighter tomorrow. United by a common cause and bound by the chains of oppression, these young revolutionaries had come together to challenge the status quo and defy the tyrants who sought to suppress their voices. With banners held high and voices raised in defiance, they marched through the streets of Paris, their footsteps echoing the cadence of change and their spirits unyielding in the face of adversity. But amidst the chaos and turmoil of revolution-torn Paris, a new chapter in the saga of Les Misérables was about to unfold, as the paths of these fearless revolutionaries intersected with those of Jean Valjean and his beloved Cosette. For Valjean, the spectre of revolution stirred memories of a past long buried beneath the sands of time, a time when he had stood shoulder to shoulder with his fellow comrades in arms, fighting for a cause greater than himself. And though the scars of battle had long since faded, the flame of revolution still burned bright within his heart, igniting a spark of hope in the darkness. And so, as the streets of Paris erupted into chaos and the barricades rose like monuments to the indomitable spirit of the people, Valjean found himself drawn once more into the crucible of revolution, his every action guided by a fierce determination to protect those he loved and ensure a better future for generations to come. But even as the barricades became a battleground and the air crackled with the sound of musket fire, Valjean remained undeterred, his resolve unshaken by the spectre of death that loomed on the horizon. For he knew that the fight for freedom was not measured in victories won or battles lost, but in the unwavering courage of those who dared to defy the powers that be and stand up for what they believed in. And it was amidst the chaos and turmoil of revolution-torn Paris that Valjean's true mettle was put to the test, his every action a testament to the power of love and the triumph of the human spirit. For though the road ahead may be long and fraught with peril, Valjean knew that he would never walk it alone, his heart forever intertwined with that of the young revolutionaries who had dared to defy the forces of tyranny and fight for a better tomorrow. And as the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded into the ether, Jean Valjean emerged from the crucible of revolution reborn, his soul cleansed of the stains of his past and his spirit renewed by the promise of a brighter tomorrow. For though the road ahead may be long and fraught with peril, he knew that he would not falter, not until the dream of freedom had been realized and the people of Paris stood united as one, their voices raised in defiance and their hearts ablaze with the fire of revolution. Chapter 9: Valjean's Sacrifice. As the tumultuous waves of revolution crashed against the barricades of Paris, Jean Valjean found himself standing at the precipice of destiny, his heart torn between the obligations of duty and the yearnings of love. For amidst the chaos and turmoil of revolution-torn Paris, Valjean faced a choice that would define the very essence of his being, a choice between his own safety and the happiness of those he held most dear. With Cosette by his side and the spectre of Inspector Javert looming ever closer, Valjean knew that the time had come to make a stand, to confront the demons of his past and forge a new path forward. And so, with a heavy heart and a steely resolve, he set forth into the heart of the storm, his every step guided by a fierce determination to protect those he loved at any cost. But even as the barricades rose like monuments to the indomitable spirit of the people, Valjean found himself grappling with the weight of his own conscience, torn between the obligations of duty and the yearnings of love. For though he had sworn to protect Cosette at any cost, he knew that the road ahead would be fraught with peril and uncertainty, with no guarantee of a happy ending. And so, as the battle raged on and the barricades became a battleground, Valjean found himself confronted by the spectre of Inspector Javert, his nemesis and his salvation intertwined in a deadly dance of fate. With each passing moment, the noose tightened around Valjean's neck, threatening to crush him beneath the weight of his own guilt and remorse. But even as the jaws of fate closed in around him, Valjean remained steadfast in his resolve, his every action a testament to the power of love and the triumph of the human spirit. For though he knew that his sacrifice would come at a great cost, he also knew that it was a price worth paying for the chance to ensure a better future for those he held most dear. And so, as the final moments of reckoning drew near and the echoes of battle faded into the ether, Jean Valjean stood tall and proud, his soul alight with the fire of redemption and his spirit renewed by the promise of a brighter tomorrow. For though his journey may have been fraught with hardship and sacrifice, he emerged from the crucible of adversity stronger and more resilient than ever before, his legacy destined to endure for generations to come. And as the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded into the ether, Valjean's sacrifice served as a beacon of hope in the darkness, a testament to the power of love and the triumph of the human spirit. For though he may have been gone, his spirit lived on in the hearts of those he had touched, forever immortalized in the annals of history as a symbol of courage and compassion in the face of adversity. Chapter 10: Redemption and Reunion. As the smoke cleared and the echoes of battle faded into the distance, the streets of Paris lay shrouded in silence, the air heavy with the weight of loss and the promise of a new beginning. And amidst the wreckage of revolution-torn Paris, the echoes of redemption rang out like a clarion call, beckoning forth those who had dared to defy the forces of tyranny and fight for a better tomorrow. For Jean Valjean, the journey towards redemption had been long and arduous, fraught with hardship and sacrifice. But even as he stood on the precipice of destiny, his heart heavy with the burden of his past, he knew that his sacrifice had not been in vain, that his legacy would endure for generations to come as a testament to the power of love and the triumph of the human spirit. And so, as the sun rose on a new day and the city of Paris began to stir from its slumber, Valjean found himself reunited with those he held most dear, Cosette and Marius, the young lovers whose lives he had touched in ways beyond measure. With tears of joy streaming down their faces, Cosette and Marius embraced Valjean with all the warmth and affection of long-lost kin, their hearts overflowing with gratitude for the man who had risked everything to ensure their happiness. But even as they reveled in the joy of their reunion, Valjean knew that his time in this world was drawing to a close, that the shadows of his past could not be outrun forever. And so, with a heavy heart and a sense of peace that surpassed all understanding, he bid farewell to those he loved most, knowing that his sacrifice had paved the way for a brighter tomorrow. And as Valjean's spirit ascended to the heavens, a chorus of angels sang out in celebration, their voices ringing with the promise of redemption and the triumph of the human spirit. For though his journey may have been fraught with hardship and sacrifice, he emerged from the crucible of adversity stronger and more resilient than ever before, his legacy destined to endure for generations to come as a beacon of hope in the darkness. And so, as the sun set on the city of Paris and the stars twinkled overhead, Cosette and Marius stood hand in hand, their hearts forever intertwined with that of the man who had taught them the true meaning of love and sacrifice. And as they looked to the horizon, they knew that their journey was far from over, that the road ahead would be long and fraught with peril, but that they would face it together, guided by the light of Valjean's unwavering love and the promise of a brighter tomorrow.